2023, Rooster Teeth announced that Red vs. Blue would finally be ending after 20 years and 18 seasons. At this point in time, the future of one of the internet's longest-running series was uncertain. The show had been floundering with the fanbase for a few seasons, and the poor reception of its tie-in series/spin-off Red vs. Blue Zero felt like the first nail in the coffin. By this point, the original team had seemingly moved on. The Q vs. A miniseries kept the characters alive and engaging with the community, but any chance of a return to form became more and more unlikely. And then, the series' original writer, Bernie Burns, came back with the optimistically named Restoration, a finale movie/season to bring the entire show to a close. Shortly before the original Rooster Teeth streaming platform was shut down, it was released. Dubiously canonical, Restoration predominantly features Griff, Simmons, Sarge, and Caboose, with a version of Epsilon returning in the form of a final pre-recorded message to them about the meta's return. He needs the Reds because Caboose is so infinitely unpredictable that he can't leave a message for him alone. Tucker has been corrupted by the shadows of Epsilon's own fragments. A new Sigma once again on a misguided warpath to become a real human. Over the course of the story, we follow the Reds and Caboose as they retrace their past and confront an old enemy in order to save the day. As of writing this, it's been several months since I first watched Restoration. Without looking at any of the notes that I took at the time, I can only really remember key moments like Epsilon's return, Sarge's death, and Tex and Church's final reunion. I know there was a final battle. Carolina shows up, but I don't really remember why. I know Wash was snubbed almost entirely. Everything that he went through during the Paradox arc was just a dream. It all just begs this question of why? Who decided that this was necessary? And the more that I think about it, the more it pisses me off. This finale feels like it's upset that it exists. It's resentful of the characters, the setting, all of the world building that has developed over nearly 2 decades. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's properly refresh my memory and start from the beginning. Restoration kicks off at an RTX-style fan convention, immediately turning around our understanding of the post-chorus seasons by reintroducing Dylan Andrews, not as a highly skilled, confident reporter, but instead as the awkward B-movie director of an action film loosely based on the Reds and Blues. Her expository dialogue is then suddenly interrupted by our newest BBEG in Search for the Boys. Hard pivot to the latest simulation base, where Sarge, Griff, Simmons, and Caboose are trapped in an open-air cage where they can be ignored by the UNSC once again. While Griff is crashing out for being subjected to a fake war that means nothing, Caboose is getting assistance from Lopez to fix a light on his old helmet, wherein he receives an elaborate message left behind by Epsilon Church. Using a prediction model based on their previous interactions, similar to his search for Texas in the memory unit, Church has simulated a scenario in which he's able to exposit that the memory fragments that Epsilon fractured into during the Season 13 finale have taken over Tucker's brain and are trying once again to fuse into the meta, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it was well established before that Epsilon was too weak to run the suit on his own for very long, because he was the weakest, albeit the most self-actualized piece from the Alpha, which means that his memories of memories couldn't possibly have enough power. Okay. While trying to suspend the audience's disbelief, we catch up on Washington, who is currently being held in a UNSC military medical facility. The counselor's voice loops on the intercom, and Dr. Emily Gray has returned as Wash's primary physician. The news has been reporting on the meta as a mystery attacker, and it's put Wash in a bit of a panic. No one seems to want to take him seriously, and the sole ally that he has in Doc isn't doing anything to convince the others that something needs to be done, so he gets dragged back into his room. Later on, Doc comes back to help him break out off-screen. Back at Red Base, Simmons convinces Griff and Sarge that it'll be worth it to help stop the new meta. Sheila gets help from her old friend, 479er, to provide transport for the guys to get to Hargrove's impounded ship, the Staff of Charon, where they made their last stand on Chorus. The series has found a balance of making contemporary references as the seasons go on, with nods to the evolution of the internet and social media that have felt natural enough over time. And here we see callbacks to the COVID-era Zoom meetings and work from home, providing equal parts relatable humor and cringe, as the team finds that the security team guarding the ship have all switched to remote work, making their break-in to the trophy room to find the old recovery unit relatively frictionless. That is, until the meta surprises them. He wrongly assumes that Caboose holds the fragment of Epsilon, rather than the recording that remains. Griff and Simmons get the ship ready for takeoff, while Sarge goes back to help Caboose. They get back to the ship, but their luck runs out. Sarge gets stabbed through the airlock and uses his final moments to promote Simmons to team lead, and attempts to make amends with Griff. When they get back to Blood Gulch, Griff and Simmons hold a small funeral for Sarge, and with his first act as leader, Simmons relieves Griff and commits himself to trying to help Caboose and Tucker. With the end in sight, Griff decides to join Simmons and what's left of the Blues to try and save the galaxy one last time. Meanwhile, Caboose gets one final directive from Church, revealing a redundancy under Blood Gulch Outpost Alpha, another mechanical body for an AI to be housed in. With a memory unit stolen from Hargrove's ship, Caboose begins his efforts to try and bring back an old friend with the power of reminiscing. Everything starts to come together as the boys prepare for a fight with their old frenemy. Wash and Doc show up as the Reds start their fight. In the background, it becomes obvious that Caboose isn't trying to bring back Church. He's bringing back Tex. And this time, she's not built on the grief of a sad, broken man, but the memories and experiences of a unit of friends who remember her as an unflinching badass. I'll be totally real with you. I was thrilled when I realized what was happening because I love Tex. If she had to be brought back against her will yet again, I'm glad that it's in this form instead of as the beta fragment. It's not the best fight in the series by any means, but Wash summons Carolina by activating his recovery beacon, and like in Red vs. Blue Zero, there is something pretty nostalgically satisfying about seeing our girl come back to kick some ass, even if the choreography isn't nearly as fluid as I wish it was. The return of Freelancer soundtrack motifs as well as scratches an itch in my brain, although I do wish that they had used the music from Season 8's final fight instead. If all that you're after is nostalgia, then this is for you. It has some good moments, especially when Tex embraces her return in order to turn the tables on the meta after he taunts her, and again after she takes them down with the capture unit. This full circle moment of bittersweet reconnection and a farewell for their show's original emotional core was easily my favorite part of the finale. When everything settles, Caboose destroys the recovery unit, and Carolina gives us the reveal that Doc has only been in Wash's head all this time. The memories of the friends that Wash has lost assure him that they'll always be there for him, as long as he remembers, and Carolina promises that she'll never leave his side. The finale ends where it all began.
Hey, Simmons?
Yeah?
Did you ever figure it out? Why we were here?
Nah, still a work in progress for me, I suppose. How about you?
No, I never did figure it out. But I did reach one conclusion.
And? What was that?
If I did have to be here, I'm just glad I was here with all of you.
I want to like Restoration so badly. There are pieces of it that I enjoyed, and jokes that genuinely made me laugh, moments that tugged at my heart, but I just can't. I want to be satisfied with this ending. I want this finale to be a meaningful close to a story that for a decade has been so transformative to my life. But the pacing just goes so fast that we don't get nearly enough time to breathe in the smaller moments, and it makes for much weaker banter between the characters. The rendered animation blends in well enough with the machinima models, but the fights really struggle to create any sense of tension. Everything is just off enough, and I can't let it go. And it's really bothering me that Restoration feels so disconnected from the rest of the show, even when the supposed canon goes from chorus straight to the finale. Or maybe especially when viewed as the quote-unquote real version of Red vs. Blue. Don't worry, all those character arcs that happened while the writers were committing to the time travel bit, that was just in Epsilon's head. Zero's awkward but honest attempt at writing new characters, that never happened. The cast has gone nowhere and done nothing interesting in the last while, and the only consequence of their actions on chorus was a return to a life that they were miserable in. But you can just remember what it was like back when everyone was together, so it's fine that half of the cast is just gone now. It's trying to please everyone, and in doing so is never truly satisfying. I think what has been sticking with me the most is how the characters are just betrayed by this finale. The fact that we start off in a canyon could be a fun nod if Chorus hadn't given them the perfect out from the UNSC and simultaneously gave them an external community apart from their insular group that forced them to develop as characters. Any narrative picking up after Chorus should have seen them reconciling with what happened in the fight against Charon alongside the people with whom they were fighting. The story of the Reds and Blues and Freelancer has moved beyond the confines of a base in the middle of nowhere, and I think that it's a tragedy that this is where we've ended up again. Sigma and the meta as well feels both externally and within the narrative like The last shock of synapses firing within a dying mind, ready for oblivion. And it's not because Elijah Wood isn't the voice actor anymore, which is a shame, but it's the fact that we moved on from this storyline a decade ago, before we ever met Carolina or saw Washington's recovery. Project Freelancer gave us his background after we had already dealt with the effects of Sigma's manipulation of Maine, a story told non-linearly that ultimately provided context for Carolina and Epsilon's motivations. Epsilon had made peace with the disparate parts of himself by the time the guys confronted Karin's soldiers. Sigma's rage by this point would be so tempered, his being so entwined in that of Epsilon, that for him to take on such an all-consuming persona just doesn't make sense anymore. It's like watching bad fanfiction of a worst-case scenario. I would argue that Restoration did Tucker more dirty than Zero, which, considering that he showed up just to get knocked out in Zero, is really saying something. Tucker was such a fixture for the majority of the base series, especially considering his place within the Chorus trilogy, that reducing him down to a meat puppet is so fucking frustrating. With Maine, there was this quiet menace about his performance and how the meta was controlling him. Less was so much more in that case, and it created a great amount of tension. Sigma, as a voiced character, just doesn't have the charisma to hold his own for long. It makes him more irritating than malicious, and I don't like feeling that way when I should be pissed off that a staple character of the series has been body snatched, but I haven't been given enough reason for why I should care. How is it that no one was aware that Tucker was taken over by Sigma before now? Why has it taken this long to realize that he was gone? Why did no one care? There's a bit of a begrudging friendship between the Reds and Blues, but Carolina and Washington should have cottoned on way before now. Plus, it was already established within the Chorus trilogy via Hargrove's exposition that the suit couldn't run without a strong enough AI. Epsilon's death was a result of him deconstructing into just enough parts to run the suit for the limited amount of time that they had to fight back. It was not meant as an indefinite plan, and the fragments of a fragment were never going to be strong enough to sustain the armor for as long as they have by the time that Caboose and Lopez unlock Church's final message, several months post-Chorus. I could dig my fingers into these plot holes until they orgasm, and it still wouldn't be satisfying for anyone, so I've got to move on. What stands out the most to me is the wild mishandling of the Red team. Throughout the series, the Reds have acted as a catalyzing force for the narrative. They're mostly reactionary when it comes to the shenanigans of the Blues or the Freelancers, but they play an active role that contributes to the push and pull of the conflict. Donut takes the blue team's flag, Church gets killed. The Reds piss off their new robot, he takes over the Mantis and gets them all captured by Felix and Locus. The plot isn't always about them, but it moves forward in interesting ways because of them. It keeps them relevant throughout the show, and while that role doesn't change, their characterization evolves over time. Sarge eases up on his mania about the manufactured Red and Blue War, using his military prowess to help stop the real bad guys that they encounter. Griff's core trait of laziness conflicts with his position of leadership, and it forces him to be more amenable towards taking direct action. Donut? Well, his arc during the Paradox seasons doesn't count anymore, so fuck me, I guess. But Simmons' need for external leadership has to be put aside when he's made one of the New Republic sergeants, forcing him to step up despite lacking confidence, but making up for it with his hard-earned bravery. So the fact that we've resumed the bullshit of a Red versus Blue war is such a total character assassination for all of them. Except for Donut, because Bernie agreed that Donut was done perfectly during Paradox, so we get nothing except a blink and you'll miss it reference to his promotion to Admiral, and he is completely divorced from the narrative otherwise, which is honestly the best outcome we could have gotten from any of them. Sarge's delusion of a battle between the Reds and Blues made enough sense back in the Chorus Canyon. He knew on some level that he was cracked, but he came out of it, and by the end of Season 13, he's holding the line alongside comrades, not enemies. The back and forth of wanting to defeat the Blues is so trite by now. He likes Caboose. Sarge has always liked Caboose. I know that Sarge is often a caricature, but he has sense. Somewhere underneath the intensity, he has the power of critical thinking, so I cannot fathom why he'd bother putting more energy into a war he knows is fake against a single soldier with whom he is so well acquainted. His quick leap to aid Caboose is the catalyst to further the plot here, and it makes sense in the moment, but it doesn't explain why he's regressed so fully back into this delusion. Griff is probably the sole character who's reacting appropriately to the situation, and in a way that's consistent with his character up to this point. Griff can see through the bullshit to recognize that they're just being held hostage yet again by the UNSC because the Reds and Blues exposed Karn's corruption, and they know that the UNSC is complicit in that. Chorus, as an independent planet, had finally given them all an out, so the fact that any of them are here at all is beyond frustrating. He follows along begrudgingly because what the fuck else is he going to do? It's an apathy that's well earned, and in Restoration, he feels like the audience insert to an extent. Or at least that's what it felt like for me. His ending is the only one that feels genuinely fitting, as bittersweet as it is for him to leave Simmons behind. Speaking of Simmons, hey, Bernie. I know that you're never going to watch this. You're far too offline to see any video talking about your show, and I respect that. But hey man, what the fuck is this? When the fuck did you decide that Simmons would get probably the worst ending he could have possibly been given? What did my man do to you? Because you've effectively abandoned him in the middle of nowhere to continue a war that isn't real, doesn't matter, alone in a massive base with the only other person on that entire planet being Caboose and maybe Tucker if he sticks around. And like, I'm not even a Gremlins truther, but the two of them should have left the series together if only for the sake of moving on with their lives. Sarge declaring Simmons the leader of the Red Team is such a hollow, empty gesture. Same goes for his attempt at an apology to Griff being the actual worst. They all know it, and I could excuse it as the final attempt of a God-fearing man to make amends of some kind before the light goes out. What I don't excuse is how seriously Simmons takes this promotion even after the threat is over and done with. Him choosing to stay drives me insane because of all the casts, Simmons has the most potential. He's a smart, capable guy who could thrive anywhere else. But instead, he's just trapped in this goddamn hellhole in this isolating fucking system that has never given a shit about any of them. Clearly, the military doesn't actually give a damn about where they all are. They could have left at any time. Simmons and Griff could still part ways, they don't need to be joined at the hip forever, but at least put them back on Chorus for fuck's sake. Just set them free already. Caboose is Caboose. He had such a perfect arc in season 15, culminating in a moment that expressed so much grief and love that anything less was always going to be disappointing to me. It's a shame that his original voice actor is no longer with us, but his replacement gets the energy right overall. I always enjoyed his performances throughout Q vs. A, and as a certified Caboose enjoyer, I'm gonna give him a solid A-. I appreciate that Caboose is as vital to the narrative as he is, even if he's fully abandoned by the end. I wish that Caboose was able to do and be more overall. He could thrive elsewhere if given some support, and it feels like he's more than earned it by now. And at that, it barely feels worth mentioning our wayward freelancers. Washington and Carolina's post-chorus arcs during the Paradox seasons further developed their characters in a way that felt natural and explored heavy topics of disability and caregiving and grief with a lot of care. Unlike this, where Washington gets a delusion/imaginary friend of someone with whom he didn't have that many personal interactions outside of being his hostage and eventual ally. Maybe it's a manifestation of guilt more than grief, but that's not how they present it. I can't stand this aspect of the finale, and I know a big part of it is my bias in favor of the Paradox arc, but good lord. Washington's storyline here is him being on the sidelines as a result of his institutionalization, with his support system completely MIA. The Paradox arc makes a point of showing the mess of recovery and disability, while still showing that Washington is a person who wants to go out and do person things, like spend time outside or hang out with his friends, and those things are important to his healing process, even though it's non-linear. But in Restoration, there's just no support. Washington is trapped in another cage after knowing freedom, and the reason why seems to come out of nowhere, because I guess we didn't know what the hell to do with Doc. Even though he's a character that could have just fucked off after the final battle, let him and Donut do whatever they like. We could have made it so that Washington was being detained again because of his previous connection to Charon, which would be a decent B or C plot because that would give Carolina an opportunity to come out and be a badass and break him out of jail so that the two of them could go after Sigma Tucker together. Tucker meant something to Wash, and Carolina was tracking down freelancer tech during the Chorus trilogy, so it would have been a good way to place them on the same path as the Reds and Blues. Carolina appearing out of nowhere made for a good moment aesthetically. It calls back to main supply drop moment during the Freelancer arc, but it's thematically about as deep as her death battle episode. She has nothing to do but present us with the reveal that Doc is dead, and that Washington's mental break was centered around an off-screen death post their face-off against Charon. Wash's hallucination of his old teammates here gives us a visually sweet but emotionally void sentiment that I don't even disagree with. This show greatly influenced how I experience and process grief, but I do hate this shallow way in which it's presented. And I'm so frustrated by Carolina's empty promise to stay by his side after spending this entire finale, and presumably the last several months, gone from his life while he was stuck without anybody around to truly ground him. And that pisses me off. This probably wasn't the video that anyone was hoping for if you've been following my previous retrospectives on the series. The majority of the sentiment that I've seen about Restoration has been positive. Fans are happy that Bernie is back in the driver's seat. They are happy that the post-chorus seasons have been retconned, ignoring that this too is just another simulation. Ignoring that if this is real, then Tucker and Caboose and Simmons are stuck in Blood Gulch yet again, in a fight that does not and has never mattered, and Carolina and Washington have no clear fate. Restoration's been hard to come back to. I have a lot of fondness for the Paradox arc, and while I don't like Red vs. Blue Zero, at least it was trying to do something. Restoration just doesn't have that same spark for me. It brings back old enemies that should have stayed dead. It doesn't respect the characters or the audience. It's just putting something out into the world for the sake of having a formal ending, despite the fact that there's so much closure missing from this finale. Red vs. Blue could have ended so many more times before this. Season 5's ending works as an end to the Blood Gulch arc, and you could just watch the first few seasons and have a good time. Season 10 works as a close to the Freelancer saga, giving Carolina familial closure and tying up Church and Tex's love story. Season 13's ending worked because it was intended to be ambiguous as to what comes after. Epsilon's sacrifice was a beautiful end to Church as a character, long seen as the protagonist of this series, and his speech about relying on faith is a wonderful sentiment to leave your audience with. It prompts introspection, speculation, and gives your audience something to look at the entirety of the series with. Season 17's ending, by contrast, takes a retcon route, undoing all of the events of the Paradox arc while keeping everyone's character growth intact. We, as the audience, are left with knowledge of what all has happened, and we know that the team will take those lessons with them to become better people to each other. Even if they don't go on any more reality-altering adventures, it leaves the door open, with no obligation to walk through it. Hell, even Zero ends in true action movie form with the heroes defeating the bad guy and getting to celebrate on the way home. In my opinion, it feels as though Restoration is embarrassed to exist alongside the rest of the series. It's responding to the criticism of the last few seasons by saying nothing of value, with the original creator begrudgingly returning after too many years away from the helm. There is a familiar charm to Bernie's writing, I'll admit it, and having Church back even in this diminished form is interesting, but he's just been gone for too long. The old enemies aren't compelling anymore. This finale asks us to remember the good times with those we loved, to reassure the viewer that they'll always be with us as long as we keep them in our memories, while leaving behind too much of what made the show worth watching to begin with. I think it says a lot that I don't want to watch this again. I don't want to be frustrated by plot holes and mishandled characters. I don't want to be reminded of the more satisfying stories that exist in this canon soup they've created. Restoration will take up space in my mind for the duration of editing this video, and then in a few months I'm going to struggle to recall the wider plot beats, just as I had when I first watched it. When I think about Red vs. Blue, my mind will go back to Blood Gulch and Valhalla and the Freelancers and Chorus. I'll think about the contributions of Monty Ohm and Miles Luna. Hell, I'll even think about Hardboiled from Family Shatters. But like Church, Restoration will exist as just a fragment of a memory for me. Rooster Teeth as it was is gone. The website is now an archive for the shows that Bernie was able to hold on to, and also hosts his podcast Morning Somewhere, which I have not listened to. There's some content locked behind a paywall, but you can watch the entirety of Red vs. Blue for free. I have mixed feelings about making it less accessible. A lot of content got hidden on YouTube after Warner Brothers shut them down, and until I checked it again while writing this, the Rooster Teeth website was a work in progress screen. I don't feel like I'm exaggerating when I say that Red vs. Blue is a part of internet history, and if it wasn't for Bernie Burns, it could have easily become lost media. I don't fault him for reclaiming the IP that he started with his friends, and it seems like the memberships for roosterteeth.com are going towards maintaining it as an archive. I do think that's a good idea, especially with the fragility of the internet. I find a lot of relief in knowing that there are people out there trying to preserve these stories. Because even though this ending wasn't for me, I still really think that this show is important. I still think that these characters had a lot to teach us and that this world is worth holding on to. I know that it's selfish to wish there was a chance we could tell more stories in this universe, but it's over. The best thing that I can do now is move forward, revisit the parts that speak to me from time to time, but what I want to take from this more than anything is a challenge. A challenge to create, to write, to build my own universes, and I hope that someday I can pass on that same passion and joy and love to someone else. I want to take a second to shout out some other machinima projects that I've grown fond of in the recent years. Croneth has been making short films using Halo 3 and Reach that range from silly to dramatic. Mabomu is a channel that hasn't made anything in a few years, but Haphazard Heroes has a lot of that classic Red vs. Blue vibe and is a lot of fun. Speaking of Destiny, Player One Stories has a mini-series called Destiny Solace, a first-person POV retelling of the Destiny 2 New Light chapter. I feel like D2 has a lot of potential as a medium for machinimating, and as a big Destiny fan, I'm kinda hoping that this space might get some love and use now that Bungie has shut down production on the franchise for the time being. Maybe one of these days I'll make a video talking about the game, but I have enough works in progress going before I can even start touching on that. But anyways. If you've been following along with these retrospectives from the beginning, I want to say thank you so much for indulging me. The responses I still get on both of those videos have been absolutely wonderful, and I'm so glad that this silly little show has touched so many of us. I know that this was a bit of a bittersweet note to land on, but I hope that regardless, you'll share your thoughts with me. If you really enjoyed Restoration, then I want to hear all about it. If you thought that it was disappointing, but maybe for different reasons, then please share. My favorite thing about this extended project passionately rambling about this bunch of assholes standing around and talking has been that we get to talk about them in my comments section. I was fully prepared for Memory is the Key to get maybe 100 views, 1,000 if I got really lucky, but today it's sitting at over 85,000 views, with more than 500 comments, all of which I've read and only a few I've had to delete. This response has honestly been life-changing for me, and it's such an honor to share in the enthusiasm and the vulnerability that this show brings out of us. It's shown me that I don't have to wonder why we're here anymore. I know why we're here.